It's hard to know where to start, but I guess the best place is at the beginning. Before I knew the truth, before everything in my life was turned upside down. I remember the day like it was yesterday. My husband, Alex, and I had just celebrated our 5th wedding anniversary. Life was good. We had a beautiful home, 2 kids, and a marriage that from the outside looked perfect. But looking back, I can see the cracks forming, though I didn't notice them at the time. It wasn't until one afternoon, nearly 10 years after he disappeared, that I found out everything. I had been cleaning out some old boxes in the attic when I stumbled upon a folder filled with police reports, missing person flyers, and documents that made no sense. And in the middle of it all was a photo of Alex. Not the happy man I married, but a version of him from years earlier, before we met. The police report attached to it read, "Missing, Alexander Harris, last seen, March 2003. I froze. The room seemed to spin. My husband was on that flyer. My husband, the man I had built my life with, the father of my children, was a missing person. And I had no idea. I felt like my world was crumbling. The report was years old, and yet, here it was, buried in a dusty box in our attic. How was it possible that I had never known? How could the man I married, who had claimed to be building a life with me, have been living under a completely different identity? I spent the next few hours in shock, going through every piece of paper in that folder, piecing together a story that seemed impossible. According to the police records, Alex had disappeared without a trace, leaving no clue as to where he had gone or why he had left. They had tried to find him, but after years of dead ends, he was written off as a lost cause. But what did this mean for me? For our life together? For everything I thought I knew? There were too many questions and no answers. I needed to talk to Alex. I needed to confront him. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind was racing with a million thoughts, each one more unsettling than the last. I had to confront Alex. I couldn't live with the uncertainty anymore. I was tired of feeling like I was in the dark, like there were things about my husband that I didn't understand. How could he have lied to me all these years? What kind of man keeps something like this hidden? When he came home from work the next evening, I was sitting at the kitchen table, holding the folder in my hands. He walked in, casually greeted me, and hung up his jacket, completely unaware of what was about to unfold. I stood up as he turned toward me, and before he could say anything, I asked, "Who is Alexander Harris?" The color drained from his face. For a brief moment, he looked like a man who had just been caught doing something he couldn't explain. He didn't say anything at first, just stared at me in silence. His eyes were filled with a mix of fear and something else, a look I couldn't quite place. I dropped the folder onto the table, and the document spilled out. "I found this," I said, my voice shaking with a combination of anger and disbelief. "Why was my husband on a missing person report? And why didn't you ever tell me?" He took a step back, his hands trembling as he ran them through his hair. I could see the weight of the situation settling on him. Finally he spoke, but his voice was quiet and strained. "I didn't want you to know. I didn't want to hurt you." I could barely process what I was hearing. "You didn't want to hurt me? By lying to me for 10 years? I demanded. "By hiding your past from me, the man I married? How is that protecting me?" He exhaled slowly, as if preparing to tell me something that would change everything. "I wasn't supposed to be here. I wasn't supposed to be your husband. I wasn't supposed to have a family. I didn't choose this life. But when I met you, everything changed. I thought maybe I could leave my past behind and start over, but it's never that simple, is it?" The words hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. I was stunned, unable to fully comprehend what he was saying. I had married a man who wasn't who he said he was, a man with a past so dark that he had kept it hidden from everyone, including me. I was a part of something before I met you, he continued. Something I thought I'd never escape. I wasn't just missing, I was running. He sat down across from me, his face pale and exhausted. I could see the weight of years of guilt pressing down on him. I needed answers, but the truth felt like something I wasn't ready to hear. The man I had built my life with, the father of my children, was now a stranger to me. Everything I thought I knew was slipping away. I wasn't running from just anything, he said, his voice low and shaky. I was running from the people I had worked with, people I didn't want to be involved with anymore. I wasn't just a man who disappeared, I was forced to disappear. He paused, as if trying to find the right words. I was involved in something dangerous before I met you, something I couldn't escape. I was a part of a criminal organization, a group that did things I'm not proud of. When I decided to leave, they made sure I never came back. They erased me. They made me a missing person to everyone, including my own family. I felt like the floor was pulled from under me. My mind couldn't catch up with what he was saying. Criminals? A dangerous organization? The man I loved? The man I trusted? Had a past filled with violence and deceit? But why didn't you tell me? I asked, struggling to form the words. Why didn't you tell me what kind of life you had before we met? How could you hide that from me? He closed his eyes, clearly ashamed. I wanted to protect you, protect the life we built together. I thought if I could keep this from you, you'd never have to know, but it's not something I could outrun forever. And now it's all coming back. The people I left behind, they know I'm alive, and they're looking for me, and they'll stop at nothing to find me and you. The reality of his words hit me like a ton of bricks. My husband wasn't just a man with a secret. He was a man in danger. Our entire family was in danger because of his past. I thought I had married a man who could give me a normal, peaceful life. But now, I saw how fragile that life really was. My heart pounded in my chest as I tried to process everything. What do we do now? I whispered, my voice barely audible. How do we fix this? He looked at me, a mix of fear and determination in his eyes. We can't fix it. All we can do is survive. I'll do whatever it takes to keep you and the kids safe. But this is something we can't run from anymore. The reality of what my husband had just said hung over me like a dark cloud. It felt like everything was slipping out of my control. One moment, I was living a peaceful life with my family, and the next, I was caught in a whirlwind of danger and deceit. My husband wasn't just a man with a secret. He was a man who had been hiding a past that could cost us everything. I stared at him, trying to make sense of it all. So, what now? I asked, my voice shaking. What do we do? Where do we go? He looked down at the table, his hands trembling. I don't know, he admitted. I thought I could outrun it. I thought if I kept everything buried, I could protect you, protect us. But now I realize I've only put you all in danger. I could see the fear in his eyes, but I couldn't ignore the rage building inside me. How could he keep something like this from me for so long? The man I trusted, the father of my children, had lied to me for years. He had chosen to keep me in the dark about something that could change everything. What kind of life were you leading? I asked, unable to contain my anger. Why didn't you tell me, Alex? Why didn't you trust me enough to let me in? His face twisted in pain as he looked at me. I didn't want to lose you, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I was afraid if you knew, you'd leave me. I thought if I kept you safe from my past, everything would be okay. But I was wrong. The silence in the room was deafening. I had to make a choice that would affect the rest of my life and my children's lives. I couldn't keep living in fear, not knowing if my family was safe. But could I live with the consequences of what Alex had kept from me? Could I really stay with him after everything he had done? Do we stay and fight? I asked, my heart pounding. Or do we leave? Do we run from it all and hope they don't find us? Alex didn't answer immediately. He just stared at me, as if he was waiting for me to make the decision. The weight of the moment was too much for me to bear. I felt the pressure of it all closing in on me. I'll protect you, he said finally, but we have to decide together. We can't keep living like this. The decision wasn't easy. How could it be? I had just learned that my entire life, everything I had built with Alex had been built on lies. But in that moment, I realized something important. My family was more important than anything else. I couldn't keep living in fear, wondering if we were safe or if the past would come crashing down at any moment. But the question remained, could I forgive him? Could I trust him again? I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm of emotions inside me. What does this mean for us? I asked. If we stay, what do we do? How do we make sure we're safe? Alex sat back, rubbing his temples as if the weight of the world was on his shoulders. I don't know, he said again, his voice filled with regret. I can't promise you that it's going to be easy. I can't promise you that we won't be in danger. But I can promise you that I'll do everything I can to protect you and the kids. I wanted to believe him. I really did. But part of me was still angry. Angry at him for not telling me sooner. Angry at myself for not seeing the signs. I had trusted him completely. And now I was questioning everything. What kind of future did we have if we were constantly looking over our shoulders? But as I looked at him, really looked at him, I saw the man I married, the man I had fallen in love with. Yes, he had lied. Yes, he had kept secrets from me. But he was still my husband, and in my heart, I knew I couldn't walk away from him. Not yet. I don't know if I can forgive you right now, I said softly, my voice cracking. But I'm not ready to give up on us. I'm not ready to give up on our family. Alex nodded, his eyes filled with gratitude and sorrow. Thank you, he whispered. I'll do whatever it takes to make this right. And so we made our decision. We weren't going to run. We were going to face whatever was coming head on, together. We couldn't undo the past, but we could take control of our future. For a while, things seemed like they might settle down. We were still walking on eggshells, unsure of what would happen next, but we were trying. We went about our daily routines as best we could. The kids went to school, I went to work, and Alex did everything he could to make things right. But there was a lingering tension in the air. We both knew it wasn't over yet. The past still hung over us like a dark cloud, and at any moment, it could come crashing down. I began to notice little things. Late-night phone calls that Alex would take outside, the way his eyes would dart nervously when someone knocked on the door, the sudden change in his demeanor when he thought I wasn't paying attention. He was still on edge, still haunted by the past he could never outrun. But the real test came one evening, about a month after we made our decision. I was home alone with the kids, making dinner, when I heard a knock at the door. It was a quiet knock, almost hesitant. I walked over to the door, peeking through the peephole, and there, Standing on the other side was a man I didn't recognize. I froze. My heart started to race. The man looked familiar in a way I couldn't place, but there was something in his eyes, a look that seemed to pierce through me. Without thinking, I opened the door. "Can I help you?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Is Alex home?" he asked in a low, gravelly voice. I felt a chill run down my spine. Something wasn't right. "Who are you?" I asked, trying to stay calm. The man hesitated for a moment, then reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "I think you'll want to see this," he said. I didn't know what to think. My mind raced with possibilities. Who was this man? And why was he looking for Alex? The piece of paper he handed me seemed like something I shouldn't be holding. My instincts told me to slam the door in his face, but I couldn't. I took the paper, my hands shaking. "I'm not here to cause trouble," he said, his voice almost kind. "But you need to talk to Alex. He can't hide from this anymore." With that, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the shadows. I stood there, staring at the paper in my hand, unsure of what to do next. The piece of paper was an envelope, and inside was a single sentence. "They know you're alive, and they want you to pay for what you did." It wasn't until that night that everything finally fell into place. I had lived for years believing I knew the man I married. But in the span of one conversation, Alex's past was revealed to me in all its ugly truth. I learned that the man I loved wasn't just running from a bad decision or an old chapter. No, his past was far darker and far more dangerous than I could have imagined. The people Alex had been involved with, the ones who'd made him disappear all those years ago, weren't just dangerous, they were deadly. They were part of an underground criminal syndicate that had ties to trafficking, money laundering, and unspeakable violence. The reason Alex had disappeared from his family, the reason he had to change his identity and move to a new city, was because he had gotten in too deep. He'd crossed a line he couldn't come back from, and when he tried to leave, they made sure he would never be a part of their world again. But it wasn't just about him anymore. They had known where we were all along. They had watched us, watched me, watched the kids, waiting for the right moment to strike. If Alex didn't return to them now, if he didn't make good on a deal from his past, they promised to take everything I loved away. And by everything, they meant us, my family, our children. Alex's eyes were full of terror when he spoke. "I've kept you safe for so long, but now they know about you. They'll come for you if I don't do what they ask, and if they do, I can't protect you anymore." I could feel the fear in his voice, but it wasn't just fear for his own life. It was fear for our family. He was terrified of what would happen if we didn't act fast. "I'll go," I said, my heart racing. "I'll go in your place. I'll make the deal. It's the only way to protect us." Alex looked at me in disbelief. "No, you can't. It's too dangerous. I've been living with this fear for years, but I can't." His words faltered as I grabbed his hands, forcing him to meet my gaze. "You've kept us safe for long enough. I can't let you walk into this alone. If they're going to get to us, I'd rather face it head on, together." He stared at me for a long moment, and then the realization hit him. We didn't have much time. The moment we decided to walk into the lion's den, there was no turning back. The truth was now in the open, and there was no more pretending. We had to meet them. Their demand was simple. Alex had to return to their fold, finish what he started, or else. No more running, no more hiding. It was time to pay for the sins of his past. As we walked out that night, our hearts heavy with fear, Alex gave me a long look. "You don't have to do this," he said, his voice hoarse. "You can leave. I'll handle it." But I couldn't. This was my family, my life. And no matter how deep Alex had gotten into this mess, I couldn't just turn my back on him now. He had been my partner, my love, my family. I wasn't about to let some dangerous criminal syndicate tear us apart. We drove in silence, the weight of the decision pressing on us. The meeting place was set, an old warehouse on the outskirts of town. As we approached, a chilling realization washed over me. We were walking into a trap. I could feel it in my bones. We parked in front of the warehouse, the only sound our breathing. Alex reached for the door handle, but I stopped him. "If we don't come back," I said, my voice steady despite the storm in my chest, "I want you to know that I loved you, and I always will." He looked at me, his eyes filled with unspeakable sorrow. "I love you too," he whispered. Then we stepped out of the car. If this story left you speechless, hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life confessions. What would you do if you found yourself caught in a deadly situation like this? Let me know in the comments below how far you'd go to protect your family.